And to touch on just like the stakeholder and the impact analysis for the UBR, it was limited just to Utah. So Ryan, let's talk about how Colorado was completely left out of the stakeholder process, even though we bear some of the most significant risks of the rail project, just as Chris was just saying. From a policy perspective, is this a failure of the implementation of NEPA? And can you go into a little bit of what NEPA is for the crowd?
So, if you can't tell already, and either by voice or face, Chris and I are brothers, and then there's another question after that. Yes, correct. He just has long Samson hair, and I got mine short. We want you to be able to tell the difference, but we're still going to mess with you. So, I can absolutely go into policy. What I want to impress upon all of you is that Chris touched on this, and we've touched on this wonderful, very comfortable couch, by the way. Way too comfortable. is that policy generates from us, the citizen. The government works for us. That is our Constitution. All right, that's the state constitution. That is our federal constitution. And part of that was what we call, no pun intended, watershed legislation. We've all heard of the EPA. So NEPA, N-E-P-A. I'm literally going to read it for you. The National Environmental Policy Act, which created the EPA, was signed into law on January 1st, 1970. NEPA requires federal agencies to assess the environmental effects of their proposed actions prior to making a decision. The range of actions and activities covered by NEPA is broad, of course it is because it's federal government, and includes making decisions on permit applications, adopting federal land management actions, constructing highways and other publicly owned facilities like rail lines. And using the NEPA process, agencies evaluate the environmental and related social and economic effects of their proposed actions. Agencies also provide opportunities for public review and comment on those evaluations. So I'll turn it on this group here. The question was, did NEPA fail? What do you think? Did it, or did the bureaucracy and the administrators who run NEPA fail? Right? Because we have great policy in place. We really do. That if the Supreme Court stops gutting it, right? We have the West Virginia case hurt us on coal, but EPA is starting to get some teeth. But I think where the policy failed is in the implementers. But we, going back to my first comment, under the Constitution, are the government. The government works for us. Our senators work for us. In fact, we just elected Bennett back. We could get rid of him in 4 years if he doesn't work for us. Now, that is something that's more powerful than anything, is that we actually drive policy as citizens. So here, I don't think that NEPA failed. I think that the bureaucracy is not being administered correctly in the name of us. And I know there's going to be another question later about how we can do more to make sure that our policy is actually implemented to protect us. Utah's great state. They don't have our interests as their best interest. Neither does Texas. And to be honest, I moved from California. I'm not one of them. I'm from Missouri, as you heard me and Chris being like, Missouri. But we've lived in multiple states, and states don't have necessarily a common interest. But we as citizens do. Because that water will inevitably go from our headwaters literally all the way down to San Diego, where I moved from. It's the same drinking water. And when, not if, a 2-mile train with hydrophobic soil going into a very steep canyon in a beautiful area crashes on this 2-mile train, it will go into the water for $40 million. $40 million. That I wish that would be the disaster recovery. 40 million people will drink that water or not be able to drink it. And we think we have water problems now. Just like Kate said, 40 million people downstream. But we can change it. So no, NEPA didn't fail, but the bureaucracy, the U.S. Forest Service, they failed. And so let's change that.